Greetings, my dear squidlings. Welcome back to my humble abode while I exist on the physical plane. Over the last few months I have seen many things on the web tubes, but this is focused on something specific that has increasingly been considered horrific. When engaging in discourse on the subject of how best to engage with media, I have seen many otherwise reasonable and progressive humans imply some unfortunate things. When people complain about fanboys, I often hear a collection of traits described, often as inherently negative, such as collecting facts or memorizing trivia, obsessing over a topic, sometimes to the point of incorporating it into their identity, poor social skills, for example, talking too much about their interest. Now, I'd imagine you want to know an interesting fact about these traits. They are a perfect description of how many autistic people engage with their special interests. Engaging information instead of conversing. What is conversing if not an exchange of information anyway? Non-autistic people, why are you like this? Let me understand your mind. While most of this is not intentionally targeting autistic people, however, when I see these traits considered negative or conflated with the aforementioned toxic entitlement of those who were really sad about the fact the purple-haired lady told Poe he was wrong, I feel very, very uncomfortable. Unintentional ableism is still ableism, and autistic traits are not bad, just scientifically speaking, fucking weird. There are genuine problems with fandom, and most of them boil down to entitlement. People who think they're owed certain content by creators, people who think they run the show, people who harass others for not engaging with fandom the same way they do. However, people enjoying lore is not one of these problems, and discourse surrounding lore can get very iffy very fast. This is actually arguably more damaging than what's described as cringe culture, i.e. contempt for or active bullying of people who enjoy things considered to be childish or just people who care too much about something. Because while cringe culture is often blatant in its contempt for joy, especially if that joy looks a bit autistic, this is often perpetrated by progressive-minded people who on paper support autistic people. But autism acceptance requires acceptance of autistic traits, not just token support whenever some YouTuber we all already know is bad starts calling people autists to avoid defending their argument. This also goes alongside not necessarily ableist, but certainly borderline gatekeepy attitude that often happens on left-tube adjacent media criticism. Time to give a semi-major YouTuber some criticism, and I really hope this doesn't ruin my comment section. In his video, Annihilation, Decoding Metaphor, Dan Olson uses the phrase no meaning, only law to describe what he thinks of as a problematic way to consume media. His example of this are a series of admittedly clickbaity YouTube videos theorizing about the end of Annihilation and what it might mean. Dan Olson criticizes this, saying that these videos believe that a literal interpretation of art is more valuable/true than a metaphorical one. As a person who rarely thinks in metaphors, because I am autistic and being literal-minded is an autistic trait, this was an interesting and well-made video on the themes of this film. I do not bring this video up as a call-out. Please do not at me. And neither am I defending the videos he cites, because quite frankly, I haven't watched them and I don't care. I'm just here to make everyone autistic. I am the autistic demon they warned you about. Dun dun dun! While discussing the importance of intellectual curiosity and discussing how Annihilation in particular is meant to be taken as metaphorical, he describes a literal reading of the movie as anti-intellectual and incurious, and also says this.
trying to decode the plot like a goddamn puzzle box isn't just missing the point, it is willfully ignoring the story as it is told to you.
Which I find to be a bit iffy, because you are still saying that engaging with media in one way is inherently superior to other ways of engaging with media. Sure, talking about themes can and often is interesting, but to me and my autistic overly literal brain, trying to decode the plot like a Damned by the Gods puzzle box is often more fun. And specifically calling people anti-intellectual and incurious, aren't they just being intellectually curious about different things to you? I fail to see what the issue is here. What's wrong with fan theories? It should be noted that Dan Olson is far from the only person guilty of this. I picked him because this video is the best illustration of this attitude I can find. This isn't coming from a canon is sacred attitude either. I'm a Doctor Who fan, which means that I consider canon to be more of a loose guideline than the word of the gods. One of the most enjoyable things in my experience in fandom is coming up with fan theories to explain inconsistencies. I do not see how that is anti-intellectual and incurious. It's just that my curiosity is not necessarily about themes. I realise you hate CinemaSins and others like it. I realise there are entitled fanboys who are throwing a tantrum and harassing people because The Last Jedi had a woman in it and didn't have Luke be a completely awesome badass in it. However, attacking people for engaging with fandom in a specific way, especially when that specific way leads suspiciously close to the traits of the already marginalised, is not the answer. Because it makes autistic people think your acceptance is conditional. Also, lore is good.